4, 3. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a very special edition of Wrestling with the Future. I'm Angelo DeCipio, your host. I am flying solo tonight. If you're noticing, we're alone, all by our lonesome. No Dan the Man tonight. No Marvelous Mike. It's just me, myself, and my buddy Seth Turner. And Seth Turner, you ask, who is Seth Turner? Who is this good-looking guy? Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. We're going to a conversation that I think you'll find very enlightening and intriguing and fascinating, quite frankly. Seth Turner is an educator, an athlete, devoted father, loving husband, Renaissance man, and overall good guy. He's also the president of the International Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, tentatively scheduled to be opened somewhere in the great state of New York. Seth joins me for a special one-on-one, and we will pull back tonight. Like the layers of the onion, we're going to pull back the veil and uncover just what it took to take on this massive project and see it through fruition. So, would you welcome for his first appearance on Wrestling with the Future, Mr. Seth Turner? Seth, how are you, my friend?
Angelo, it is my pleasure to be here, and thank God Dan the Man isn't here, because then one of us gets to be the most intelligent person in the room tonight. And
exactly.
and I'm hoping that between my multiple personalities and the few that you might have, I think we can fill the space for the people who aren't here.
Oh, absolutely. Brother, let me tell you something. There's enough personalities between the two of us to go around.
But I want to genuinely thank you. You referred to me as being a Renaissance man, and you rolled down some of the roles that I play. And Angelo, I want to thank you, and I also need to apologize to you. And I wanted to do this on air. You had reached out to me in the spring of last year, and I had committed I would come onto your show, and I was not able to do so for a variety of reasons. And so I need to let you know that I'm sorry that I couldn't do it before today, but I'm also very glad, very excited, very honored to be here today with you. So,
and as honored as I am to have you, and I've been looking forward to this for a very, very long time. And you're familiar with the show, and I know you are, and I know because your cohorts, your partners in crime, use that term loosely. Your partners, Dave Yohannan, J.J. Dillon, Tony Villano. I love Uncle Tony. Among others, Andrew Anderson, just a whole host of people have all made an appearance on this show. In fact, a few of them. Tony's been here a couple of times. Davey's been here a half a dozen, 7, 8 times. Andrew's a good friend of the show. We've got a lot of friends at the International Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. And one of the things I wanted to do was to enlighten people as to your existence. There are people who still refer to the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, which is, quite frankly, a distinct and separate group located in another part of the country, somewhere in Texas. This is not that group. This is a distinct, a unique organization in that it is international in scope and flavor, and I wanted you to come on to try to set the record straight among those people who refer to the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame as it were a single, unique group. There are many pro wrestling Hall of Fames. Let's be clear about that. But what separates the IPWHF is that, the FH is that you are, like I said, international in scope and in practicality, quite frankly. So let's talk about your involvement. Who came first, you or Tony Villano? And how did the two meet? And when did the idea, Seth, of this Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame come about?
Short answer, July 4th of 2019 is when the concept was hatched. What had happened, Tony had been recognized by the Cauliflower Alley Club in April or May, April of that year. And I had known who Tony was from the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, which used to be located in Amsterdam, New York. And periodically I would make the trip out there and I would go to some of their events. So I knew who Tony was. And then a mutual friend of ours, and by the way, so Tony was an extra in The Irishman, a mob movie.
Yeah.
So was another guy, Mike Lanuto. We had a friend in common. Mike went and shared a 4th of July thing. It created this online conversation. We agreed to get together and have breakfast. I knew who Tony was. Wanted to, just pay my respect to him in person. Thank him for all his years of working on the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. We get together in Catskill, New York, and right out of the gate, Tony sort of lays the gauntlet down and says, I'm thinking about an International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, but I've done this. Do you want to take the ball and run with it? And, we sat and had breakfast and we bullshitted, but lots of people have conversations and do nothing with it.
Sure.
I had no idea what it entailed, what it took. So I start looking into what is a Hall of Fame? What does it mean in New York? I find out that it is considered a museum. A museum functions under the state education department in New York. Okay, yeah. I've been a school administrator for over 20 years in New York, 25 years as an educator. I've been dealing with state ed for decades. So I didn't know what it took to run a museum, but I knew how to click through the website. Now, they tricked me though. It started with a 2-page report that then needed a 4-page report that then needed a 13-page report. And after 3 months of me just writing reams and reams of policies and organizational charter and you're going back and forth just to find out can you use that name. So anyway, it was 3 months of this exchange. Then we mailed in the packet around late September of 2019. I had to have a few exchanges with their legal counsel, and then December 10th, 2019, we officially received the charter, which gave us the right to function as a museum in the state of New York for the specific purpose of recognizing professional wrestling from around the globe.
Absolutely.
And what I didn't know was the rocket ship took off on December 10th. What started off in this, a bunch of paperwork over the summer turned into overnight. People from all over the place had an interest. I mean, not a little bit. I mean, right away.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And then it became, how do you manage all of these people who want to volunteer, who want to do something, who want to have a piece of this? And
it was a daunting task. I heard Tony give his version of the story. It was a daunting task just to be able to figure out what to call yourself.
Yeah.
You couldn't use, obviously you couldn't use Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. There were, for all intents and purposes, you probably could have, but then you become just another Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame like the other 30 that exist. But you had to separate yourself apart, and there had to be something unique about you. Who was it? Your idea, Seth, to have the international flair, or was it Tony's, or a collaboration?
No, I've got to give respect. It was that was Tony's concept, and he brought it forward, and it was as much, I think, because he had recognized some voids that might have existed in the incarnation of the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Gotcha.
And Angelo, if I could speak for that for 1 second, I want you to know I got nothing but love for those other organizations, and certainly for the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and want for them to be successful, and actually hope that over time these various Pro Wrestling Halls of Fame, which do exist all over the place. That's what I found out. All different countries. That I'd like to figure out a thread that can bring all of these organizations together, where we can have symbiotic relationships, where we help to add to each other's value, not in competition.
Therein lies a piece of paperwork that I sent you some months ago. I believe that without patting myself on the back, but I believe that I hold that thread. And I'll send that thread to you tonight and let you look at it. But I really believe that. I really believe that. But yeah, the problem is that there are, and again, in the interest of full disclosure, I've said this before on the show. I said it while Tony was here. I'll say it now while you're here. The Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in Wichita Falls, Texas. I know them. They know me. Johnny Mantel's a good friend of mine. But he understands that I have a passion for the International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, the IPWHF, and I've made no bones about it. I've been very clear on the show about it. I've put you guys over at every chance I could, and including having people on like J.J. Dillon and Davey O'Hannon, Tony Villano, Seth Turner. I have not had Mike on the show yet, but we'll get him. I'll always, if you're out there, I'll get you. Wrestling with the Future will get you. Like I like to tell people, and I put this. I'm just going to read a mission statement that I think I gave this to you, Seth, early on, and I'll read this. It says, on behalf of myself and Dan the Man Sebastiano, we welcome the opportunity to tell you of our intention to vie and lobby for the position of official podcast of the International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. In short, here is our mission statement. And I'm going to give this to you and let you have it. Preserve the rich history of pro wrestling's glorious past by documenting in interview form the stories that form the base for much of what we see and know now. To protect the lost and valued treasures of the kayfabe generation by doing the honors for those who broke bones, suffered, and were lost to time and history, by carrying forward their stories to the next generation, and finally to defend the integrity of the men and women who time and history were not kind to, especially those who were maligned by disreputable sources, by shedding the light of truth on their memories. Submitted, Dan Sebastiano and Angelo DeCipio. Now, I give that to you to do whatever you want with. If you want that to be your mission statement, if you want that to be the thread that ties everything together, that is my gift to you and the International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. But I did not want to just put it out there. I wanted to tell you face to face in front of God and the world that that's my intentions. And whether you accept my offer to be the official podcast of the IPWHF or not, you can use that mission statement however you choose.
Well, Angelo, here's what I did bring that forward, just so you know, to the board of directors, and it turned into an interesting conversation. And honestly, it was tabled, and we haven't gone back. The concern had little to do with your podcast, but a concern was saying, if we said something was our official podcast, what does that mean? And in my job, I've learned it's so important to pay attention to words ahead of time so that it's clear that's an understanding in advance. So the conversation, because you understand, we have on our board of directors, we have attorneys, we have accountants, we have really high skilled professionals, and they begin to dissect these things. And then the concern is liabilities, which then get affiliated with us who are volunteering. And so that was really what the dialogue was. But that was sometime around, I would say, July. So I apologize, but I want you to know I did bring it forward. And that was about the time when I had said to you, we had talked, and then I had to go off the radar. And really, and I'll speak to why. And obviously, it's COVID related. And with my job, I had to pour myself into making sure that the students and the staff that I represent were going to be safe. And there was no other. I haven't had until tonight. When I get to go into Thanksgiving vacation and By the way, let's take a minute and appreciate you and I've been able to have a conversation, and I was afraid Eddie Mansfield's ghost was going to come back from last week. That guy dominated the conversation so much, his echo is still reverberating.
I'm telling you what, I'll take, you know, with a guy, oh man, God bless him. With a guy like Eddie, he's the kind of guy you want.
And he needs to know that there are those of us who appreciate things for what they are. So you know what? He bring him back into the fold. Eddie, we love you. Come on back. You know, don't.
Oh my God, absolutely.
Don't shy away.
Oh no, I know Eddie. I know him well. He's a great guy. He's my friend. He's my partner. He's my buddy. And Eddie is just one of those guys you just say hello and then you're off to the races.
Well, you had Eddie Mansfield and you had Larry Zabisco on, back to back.
God bless me, right?
How do you get a word in?
Wait, I had Eddie Mansfield and Scott Casey on the same show. Two guys who drew tons of money throughout the Southwest. Tons of money. And Scott had to fight to get a word in. Just like he had to fight Eddie.
Let's go back, because you were in your mission, which I genuinely appreciate, and that really represents the mission of what the IPWHF represents as well. Yeah. And you talked about individuals who'd been maligned or misrepresented, or who really they just deserve the credit that they are due. And
exactly.
And let us give, first of all, pro wrestling the credit it is due. It is more popular than any professional sport, be it basketball, baseball, football. It is watched in more countries. I once attended an event at Madison Square Garden, and Triple H from the stage delivered that their intention was to have the WWE as the #1 impact on our gross domestic product. I sat there listening to that and thought, oh my God, we are exporting pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Almost as much or more than anything else that we export from this country.
And in that regard, he's absolutely right. However, he used the wrong word. He's not exporting wrestling. And let's be real clear about it. WWE is not a wrestling company. Any facsimile to pro wrestling is strictly and sheerly coincidental. It is not pro wrestling. I will argue that point from now to nauseum. And I have invited them on the show. They have such declined up to this point. And they know they can't make the argument with me. They'll lose. It's not pro wrestling. It is entertainment. It's not even sport entertainment. It is entertainment. Let's just call it what it is. They are actors. They are athletic actors, but yes, they are actors. They are not wrestlers. They are not divas or female wrestlers. They are models who are looking for a career stepping stone. Let's be real clear about it. And we have to call a spade and call it out now. If we don't, we're bullshitting ourselves and we're kidding ourselves into thinking that this is some kind of form of wrestling. It is not. Now that I got that off my chest, let's talk about what WWE is. They're exporting entertainment, Seth. That's what they're doing. And they're doing a damn good job of it. They have the financial resources, the power of the television to do so, and I will not knock them or malign them for that. If they can make $1 doing it, God bless them. Good, make your dollar and be happy. But don't call yourself pro wrestling, because you're not. You know?
Well, I think even they've moved towards sport entertainment. But I'll let you own your own words there. I don't need to cause any problems for myself.
I'll take the heat. Send them my way. Send them my way.
But we've got had a friend in common, and this ties into Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame when it was in New York, and it kind of brings up, what do I have to do with this? Which that's a question to ask, which is nothing. But I once attended an event and saw Jimmy Snuka he was in Johnstown, New York, and I got a chance to meet Superfly, and
he was a great guy.
Talk with him just a little bit, absolutely, and
good friend of mine.
You had to know the frequency that Superfly is functioning on too. Okay, so fast forward a couple of years, and I end up at the same event. It's when it's WrestleMania Access, and I get the opportunity. I've got a microphone, I've got a camera, and I get to interview Superfly. Now, but in front of me is a news organization, and they didn't know what they were doing. And I watched as they dropped the ball, and I'm thinking, this is Superfly. This is, and I got my buddy with the camera, and you can go on YouTube and check this out. It was really the last. My job was to put Superfly over, and I was going to do it because I wanted him to look like the star that he was. And you can go and check out a YouTube video.
Mm-hmm. I know
it's
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
it's very short, but it's the last interview with Superfly, before he got ill and passed away. But in that interview, he was Superfly. He was the man, because I put him up there, handed him the microphone just with enough, let him get his shots in and out, get it back. I'll carry the ball for him. Yep. And there was another time when I saw a similar event took place, and there's a long form interview that I did with the Destroyer, Dick Bayer.
Sure, Dick, legendary athlete.
And boy, you want to talk at New York, Syracuse University, two-sport Hall of Famer, coached football, coached Jim Brown, coached Ernie Davis. Broke down the barriers in Japan. But I'd also gotten to know Dick Bayer in Amsterdam. Got a chance to talk to him, really speak to him several times. So anyway, we end up in a different event in Toronto. It was for Sweet Daddy Siki, and similar type of event. I'm there. I love Sweet Daddy.
I love that, man.
the women's pet and the men's regret.
Yes, sir.
So there was an interview being done with the Destroyer, and the interviewer was it was about Siki, and they were trying to paint an issue of racial tensions in the past. But Dick was he was older, and he wasn't buying into it, but it wasn't a good interview, and it was a bad interview because of the interviewee. And I watched that, and I knew how valuable the Destroyer was.
Absolutely.
And I went up to him and I said, Dick, can I stop by your house tomorrow? And he lives out in Western New York, and we were in Toronto. We were going to be heading back. And I set it up with his wife and went to his golf course, and we shot about an hour and a half long straight shoot video. And my goal was to put him over. Because I had watched him get mistreated the night before, and
absolutely.
And I just was thinking, this happens too often because people are in this world of sound bites. They want to show up and get their 10-second clip, and it's never about the guy they're talking to. It's about them, the interviewer.
You're actually entering real personal domain, and I'm glad you are, because that's going to tie into what I'm going to follow through with. But go ahead, continue.
No, so anyway, that is sort of the same mindset, is that to really have our organization to preserve the history, but because we talk about pro wrestling, but I'm going to go further. Pro wrestling actually represents society and their norms at that time. From any time of the mid 1800s to the present day.
Yes.
Other people can talk about pro wrestling. I'm looking at it from a more historical and anthropological perspective, and
I've been waiting
do you
months.
Understand? 15,000 people would show up at Memphis Auditorium every Monday night to see Jerry Lawler. This is a phenomenon. And so we moved into now a more modern era where we watch it on TV on a weekly basis.
Seth, I've been waiting for months for somebody to acknowledge that, to say that, to use those words. You give the quintessential example. The quintessential example. Memphis on Monday nights. I know Jerry Lawler. I know Bill Dundee. They've been here Boogeyman, Jimmy Valiant has been here. They filled this place every Monday.
Yeah.
You know, I could have if I have no other guests but Bill Dundee and Jimmy Valiant, I'm good.
Oh, what else do you need?
We're good.
That's the Boogie Woogie Band.
Those men are a time capsule. They are a history time capsule.
Yeah.
If you have Bill Dundee and you don't grab him for an interview, if you got Bill Dundee and you don't say go, then you're the loser.
Yep.
Because all you got to do is say, "Hey, Bill," and Bill is like off to the races. He's one of those. There are people like that. Eddie Mansfield's another one. My friend Eddie. Just good morning, Eddie. Well, you know, brother, let me say, you know, it just goes. But here's my point, and I say to you, it's personal with me because I am of that generation. I'm 62. Okay, so I'm not a young kid. But I'm of that generation that grew up a fan back in the early 60s. I went to my first match in 1966. Okay. 66. I venture to say you probably weren't born yet.
No, I was not.
Okay. I saw Killer Kowalski and Bruno Sammartino in 1966. My job, aside from chronicling and categorizing these interviews, is to preserve the history, because the guys that I grew up watching, they're losing. They're out. They're losing grip. They're dying. A lot of them that have no financial resource.
Yeah.
A lot of them, what little money they did have, they already went through it, and they're, you know, on the generosity of other people's goodwill, and it's sad to watch. So this podcast, this is our life preserver to those guys. I bring them on. If I could bring them on, I'm going to bring them on.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm going to do, you know. And if nobody else is going to put a dime in their pocket, then I will.
Well,
you know.
So Angelo, you didn't even ask a question, but you got my brain going in so many different directions, because this is why I needed to bring a museum back to the Northeast, okay? Because one had existed, and then I'm not a guy who sits on the couch. I get up and I go and do things, but by going to the Hall of Fame when it was in Amsterdam, back in that area, signed up for a mailing list, okay? I get in the mail one day that Rocky Johnson is going to be at the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
I tell my buddy, let's go out there. I set up that I'm going to do an interview. I worked every angle because I want to interview Rocky Johnson. Okay. Not the Rockstead. I wanted to interview Rocky Johnson.
Exactly.
That was a distinction that paid dividends.
Yes, sir.
So we go out to Amsterdam. I get a chance to shoot this video. It's about 15 minutes in length. Yeah. I asked for nothing more. Tony Villano was gracious enough. He set this up and let us do this. I walk away from it, and then a week later, my phone rings. Rocky had tracked me down because he liked the interview so much. He asks me to fly down to Florida. His son just bought him a new house outside of Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
I'm running a school. I got a fire drill going on. You got to be kidding me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I agree.
Nice house, wasn't it?
I can tell you, we were my Joe DeFino, who's on the board with me and I. We were the first people in that house in Weston, Florida.
Yes, sir.
As Rocky was moving in, because his son did just buy that house.
Yep. It was a nice one. It was
we
a
got
nice
to go
one.
down actually several times, and we became good friends. And that is what then here's what was the key part. I started going to the Legends luncheons in Florida, in Tampa, and I said, we got to do this in New York. We got to do this in the Northeast. Yeah. Down in Tampa, Brian Blair puts it on with Bob Cook. Bob and Darlene help out. These are people who are with the Cauliflower Alley Club as well.
Oh, sure.
But it's a get together for the boys, and I got to go to this a couple of times and sit there, because when you're talking about 66, and I'm thinking Tony Marino had to be there.
Yeah.
And so I'm there with Tony Marino and Buddy Colt. How about this is an inside story. I'm at the table with Rocky down in Tampa, and I keep getting hit in the back of the head with Coors Light caps all day. Who the hell is this coming from? It's Jerry Briscoe, and I'm his target for whatever reason.
Yeah.
He's having a blast, but he's at a table, and he's got Ming next to him, which is the key part here.
Absolutely.
And he's got J.J. Dillon, and there's a few others. So finally, when I realize it's Jerry, I go to fling one back, except I hit Ming.
Good move, Seth.
Yeah,
move,
yeah. I just took it the rest of the day.
Oh, geez.
Luckily,
Yeah, you know what?
I was with Rocky, who's with the Samoan culture, which kept me in good graces with Ming.
Ming's a really great guy, by the way. Hell of a nice guy. Great guy.
But where'd that come from? It came from this museum in New York, because I got off my ass and I went to it. And then when I found out it had moved to Texas, it was like, well, what are we going to do?
Well, I want to stop you there, Seth, for just a second, because you're going to segue into a great area here. True, absolutely true. The Hall of Fame did move to Texas among a lot of controversy. Without getting into, because I know that there are some, hard feelings even today among certain people, and we're not going to dredge up any more hard feelings. But in the interest of truth and in full disclosure, there was a split that happened, and the Hall of Fame ended up in Texas. And it left other people saying, I feel incomplete, and I need to see this through the right way. Enter the International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. And that's basically the spark that gave this life. And taking nothing away from the people in Texas. Again, as I said, Johnny Mantel's a friend of mine. I know Johnny. I know the Hall of Fame in Wichita Falls. They're decent people, good people down there. They're doing their own thing, but it's a whole different, MO than New York. At what point do you jump in with both feet and go balls to the walls with this? Where you're giving your time, you're investing energy, knowledge, paperwork. I'm assuming at some point money.
Oh, money. Oh, geez.
Yeah, we haven't even touched the money yet, but we're going to go ahead.
And I have to clarify one very important point with you on money, too. Over the course of that summer of 2019, you get to a point where it's a law of diminishing returns. You're realizing that, hey, I'm putting in a lot of hours filing this, doing this, and working on this, and getting together groups of people who have complementary skills. One of the key parts, by the way, of the leadership is knowing what you don't know, and getting people who may not even have an interest in wrestling. But like I said, I needed an accountant, I needed a lawyer, I needed someone who can handle some publicity. I knew what I know, which I focus on leadership and of organizations, and I know how to do. I love that you have, you talk about a mission, and you develop a strategic plan, and you help to develop a roadmap to get from here to there. But balls to the wall happened actually December 10th, when we went public, and all of a sudden people were going absolutely nuts. And then Tony right away had said, let's set a date, and we're going to do our first event in May. And man, we sold out. It was harder to get our tickets and things available than it was to the event was selling itself.
Yeah.
Then COVID happened.
Yeah.
The crash.
Well, in the interest of full disclosure, I had planned on being there.
Yeah.
That was your inaugural gala,
Mm-hmm.
and that got kiboshed real quick.
And out the door went, $25,000 worth of revenue that we needed from,
Yeah.
a couple nights worth of events.
Sure.
That's the seed money that you then need so you can go negotiate and get a facility. And at that time, we were looking at a facility, by the way, and it started to fall through on both sides. But I was glad it fell through because we would have otherwise been left with a facility, no possibility for income, and no known time in which we could even open doors. And so it would have been just a financial loss.
Seth, were there people who, at the time, and this is as quirky as it's going to sound to ask this, but there are people like this. Are there people who wanted their money back?
Yeah, we refunded a great deal of the money. Yes.
Yeah, and that really surprised me because I heard that. I actually heard that you guys did refund money.
Yeah.
And it shocked me that you did, but it shocked me more that there were actually people who asked for it back.
Well, the downside is
you're talking about, as you pointed out yourself, you're talking about a museum, a Hall of Fame. Why not just write it off as a donation?
That would have been nice, or we would have held it, for the next event, which would have been a great deal for them because now, listen, we are planning August 28th of 2021 at the Desmond Hotel in Albany, which is a little bit of a step up, from where we were going to be. The other place would have been nice, but we're going top shelf. It's going to be a 3-day event at the end of August, and I think we're going to we've already booked the same weekend for 2022. So we're looking at this being a 3-day event with, if you are a fan of wrestling, we want to turn it into a Comic-Con for wrestling,
My tickets better be in the mail, brother.
So we'll be announcing our inaugural class on December 12th, letting people know who made the cut. If I can, I want to put some people over. Bob Bryla, Dr. Bob Bryla, put together a ballot committee, and I want to make sure I give credit. He had Mark Hewitt, Koji Miyamoto, Nathan Hatton, and Jimmy Wheeler. So they put together the ballot. I'll show you. I actually have all of the ballots from about 50 voters here because Bob is extremely thorough. He wanted me to double check all of the work so that
there you go.
So he put together.
That's a nice looking ballot form too, Seth.
Thank you, and we'll look at Lord Zoltan's here, and maybe you can see who he voted for. I'm not sharing anything, but Bob put together a great committee, a top quality ballot, and we're very proud of the work that they had done, which because that's what we want, everything to be top shelf all the way, and
terrific.
And that is the goal. So we're probably having to put our brakes on obtaining a facility for a little while, but we're also paying attention.
And therein lies the question a lot of people have had from day one. Where will the physical location be housed? Will there be a physical location? That's been the question with the WWE and their alleged and so-called quote unquote Hall of Fame. Show me a building. It's not. Let's be honest about it. Their Hall of Fame is a television show. But your Hall of Fame will be a brick and mortar building of some kind, somewhere in either Albany or New Amsterdam, perhaps.
Yeah, anything less than that is a failure because that is the ultimate goal. If we don't have a facility, then what are we doing? So
exactly.
That is the goal.
So, were there any considerations, Seth, to housing that building in New York City itself?
I would love if we could take on the Big Apple. The only thing is our charter says it has to be within New York State. So that's where we're allowed to operate. I work on the very east end of Long Island. I drive up to the Hudson Valley every week. You know, that's where my house is.
Bless you.
I'm from the Capital District, or I went to college in Plattsburgh, which was in the northernmost part of the state. So we are open to our options. Being in the Capital District, which is the Albany area,
Yeah.
simply is it's certainly easier for a lot of the members of our board of directors who are in that area,
Sure.
based out of that area. So,
Well, it's fair to say though that a lot of the board members have been located here in the upper Northeast for many years. Some were born here and never left. Others are transplants to this area who stayed. So it makes sense to me, and I'm just, like I said, an outsider looking in, but it makes sense to me that if you're going to house a physical brick and mortar location and the board of directors are going to be accessible, probably the Northeast is where you want to have them and be located. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me.
And anyway, we just have to make sure we want it in the Northeast. We want it in where the the population density of the tri-state area
Sure.
will lend itself to the success of the organization. But it does have to be a facility, and I do envision we may have to start with a one facility, and then as we build ourselves, look to move into a larger one. But this is where the COVID may actually be beneficial. So what we earmarked is around March and April of next year, start to pay attention to buildings that are opening up, because unfortunately a lot of businesses are failing. And so it may be there may be an opportunity that arises.
Well, it's a one man's misfortune is another man's fortune. So yeah, I mean, you have to almost, it's sad to think about it, but you have to almost be looking for somebody that's failing and be willing to snatch it up at a low cost.
You mean like I did with Bruno Sammartino's heavyweight championship belt?
Well, we're going to talk about that belt, because that belt is in question even now.
Good.
There are people who are doubting the authenticity of that belt based on photographic evidence that has come forward of 2 additional belts.
Good.
What can you tell me of this purported championship belt?
I think let the controversy begin. Let them tell me all about it, because
I've actually held that belt you're talking about, the one that you currently own. I've held that belt, so I know what it looks like.
There's some very distinctive things on that belt.
I know. I've seen it.
That do not exist on any other belt. And so if someone else can tell me how sometime in the 1960s Bruno got this belt created, I'm open to find out about it. But and what as you know, it's got very nice crushed blue leather. It's got a very nice. I'm going to guess it's an Italian leather that's on the back.
It is Italian leather. And it was actually, if I'm not mistaken, the history says it was cultivated in that area where he was from, the Pizziferrato area. Certainly around the Abruzzi area, which is in that vicinity. It's right there. And they are known as leathermen and craftsmen. They are known for their shoes. They're great shoemakers in that area. Do you have the belt with you now?
I do not have it.
Okay.
The belt is,
because I would love to see it again.
Yeah, well, I'll be happy to show you.
You know, the reason and you know why I'm bringing this up.
Yeah.
There are people who don't know that the belt was actually blue. It was not black like people think.
That's right.
And that's the thing. People always thought that this was a black belt with a gold or silver medallion on it, because the color went from gold to silver in various incarnations of the belt. I have 5 pictures in front of me. 2 of them are gold and 3 are silver.
It is maddening, and in fact, those types of pictures drove me to madness as well. So I cannot tell you. And there was one key thing that undid all of the doubt, however, okay?
Yeah.
So, and that was a phone call from Bruno's son, Daryl, to me,
Yeah.
who said, Seth, I've seen this stuff online. I'm calling you to let you know you have my dad's belt. You have the belt that he's had in my house for 50 years. I'm the one who sold it. So let's back up
If I'm not mistaken, I'll share with you when we get off the air, because there's something behind the faceplate. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well,
I'll tell you when we get off the air.
Okay, that'll be interesting. But and this is
there's a I'll tell you what it is. There's a maker's mark behind it.
No kidding.
Yeah.
On the large plate itself behind
it? Behind it. There's a maker's mark on it. That's how you'll know the authenticity of it.
Well, there's a large zipper, as you know, and then you can adjust the plates that come out of it. So I knew when I touched it. By the way, I know that Italian leather. We actually have a house. My wife's family has a house in Italy, so I'm going to be going to Pisa Ferrato as soon as I can get back to Italy. As soon as we're allowed to travel, I'm going to go and see what there is.
So your name is really Turnerini? Is that it?
Hey, I married an Italian, so.
Bless your heart.
But so it was April of 2020.
Yes, sir.
COVID is hitting. We're giving out money. We're losing money all over the. I thought we were dead in the water. By the way, as an organization,
I did too. I was looking forward to that.
and it was it became the Let's Survive. Well. I happened to get just an email that said Bruno's stuff is going to auction. And I know who sent it to me, but it had been sent to them. There was nothing else to it. And I click on this link and it's an auction house in California. What the hell is this? And I start looking and there's Bruno's heavyweight belt, Bruno's WWE Hall of Fame ring, and his a medallion for the Sports Hall of Fame where he got inducted.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
And I'm looking at these things and I'm saying, wait, how did I don't know that this place is a real auction house. I'm familiar that there's a million scams that are out there.
Oh, sure.
But I start doing research and and wait a second, that's a letter from Bruno's son. How does this all have it? So the day what you had to do, it was through SPG Auction, which is a bona fide auction house that takes care of high-end sports memorabilia.
I know who they are.
And you had to have bid on the item initially to then qualify for the day when it goes live. And the day it's going to go live is May 2nd. That's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's birthday, and it's going to be live at 10 o'clock at night. And I don't have a lot of money to be doing this type of stuff. I had to go and talk to my wife and say, this is what I'm intending to do. And I set the ceiling as to what I could afford. But I also knew that's Bruno Sammartino's belt. And I did my research. And I know that Triple H went and tracked down that Johnny Barron had in his attic the original belt, which was taken from the Ohio Territory and used by Buddy Rogers. I know that.
Yep, factual.
Okay, that's great. So what you had was an Ohio Territory leather belt that got its historical significance. But this is Bruno's belt.
Absolutely.
This is 4,040 days of a champion. This is the original run. And I do also see those other incarnations. There's different belts. And when you look at those pictures, and you got to remember, this, Angelo, go back to the 60s. You might have been looking at a program or an advertisement in 69 that's using a picture from 65. You might, it's all over it's the stock photos. So unless you were Vincent McMahon or Bruno Sammartino or Gorilla Monsoon possibly, and having those conversations, what the hell do we know about which is the original or whatever else? That's the belt That's Bruno's belt. That's what Bruno says is his belt. That's
Yeah.
what Bruno's family says is his belt.
Yeah,
That's
that's
his
the
belt.
important stuff.
That's his
Absolutely.
belt.
Absolutely. Well, you're gonna tell his family no.
Hold on. If someone else has one of those other belts, well, that would be stolen property, wouldn't it? So,
Well, it surely would.
well,
It would certainly constitute as theft, I think.
I think so. And so if that were to surface, well, then the person who owns it doesn't own it. So they submit it immediately. So thank you. Go ahead, give it back to, who it belongs to, which is not you. And you know who they're going to give it to? Me, because I bought it from them. So
Exactly.
So anyway, what happened? I purchased that as an individual because there was no organization. We didn't have the money in the IPWHF.
Right.
I put myself out there. I talked with my wife, and then I went to the board after, and I said, "Guys, this is what I had done. I'd like to use this for the organization, but when we raise enough money, buy it off of me, so that I'll hold it. Just give me the value that I paid for it. But in the meantime."
So my wife doesn't kill me.
Yeah, exactly. So I only had to, I had to clear it up with the guys on the board. But,
sure. So in other words, they're going to reimburse you at some point.
That is the plan. Yes.
Okay.
And I will officially keep it on loan for the organization with that agreement. And
rumor has it that you spent somewhere between 17 and 22 grand for it.
Lower than 20 on the selling price, and then all in closer to 25 because you got some fees around.
Yeah, that's what we heard. Yeah, I got some pretty good sources, brother.
You can find it. It is out there. You can, if people know the right words to Google and.
Oh, I didn't Google nothing. I picked up my phone. I said, "What did he pay for this thing?"
And you want to know my opinion? I got it for a steal because it's worth
three times that. You can't, and that's what this show is. That's what this show is. You can't put a price on some of the legends we've interviewed because they're going to be gone one day. And you'll be talking to some 22-year-old, some 25-year-old that doesn't, that's never made their bones yet, that doesn't know, what side of the green is grass. I mean, what side of the grass is green. But we've got legends who paid their dues and the road, and then they've got story upon story. And just like you, that's a small investment to make in a piece of history. That's like a guy who found the Hope Diamond in his, in his yard sale box.
I don't waste my money on a lot of things. I don't have a boat. I don't have cars. I don't have a motorcycle. And I also, there's a lot of things I don't know. I can't sit and tell you the value of a Ty Cobb baseball. I wouldn't know what Murderers Row of the Yankees would be worth. I know pro wrestling, and I knew how to track back similar and comparable items. And I found out, what did the Missouri Heavyweight Championship get sold for back in the 90s?
There you go.
Hold on. What did the TV title from the NWA get sold for? Mm-hmm. Oh, what about when Tom Burke went and found that wrestling prop that Pedro Morales had given to a pawn shop? Well, I tracked back. What were those worth? And so I got as many comparables as was possible. And again, I knew what I could afford. And when I was pulling this off that night, I said I can't believe other people don't know this. I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah.
Boy, did they miss the mark.
Remarkable, isn't it? Remarkable.
It was meant to be. It was meant to be. Bruno put that belt where Bruno wanted that belt.
Absolutely. In my realm, in my line of work, things always happen for a reason. There's always a time, a place, and a season. And things always happen when they are meant to. It's like I tell people, you are where and when you need to be. There's always the where and when.
So immediately after we shared that we had procured this, or I had gotten it, and we're using it for the organization, the trolls came out. Okay,
I'm sure they did.
Boy, so those things you're talking about, those photographs, people across the ocean were questioning things based on other pieces of data, and it drove me nuts. And then my wife began to question it, and then she was asking me, hey, did we get ripped off, or what's the deal? And then it was literally at that moment when we're having this conversation, and bling, my phone goes off. It's Daryl Sammartino. I've never met Daryl in my life. He tracked me down, and we have become fast friends ever since. And we're trying to now help complement what the Bruno and Carol Sammartino Foundation is and the work that they do. They're helping out with our organization. I won't tell you some of the cool things that he has promised to go into the museum, but and I will. That's the one thing I let the other board of directors know. The one person I will let you know who did make the cut is Bruno Sammartino's going in on our inaugural induction. So you have
we know that tonight. That's a given. So it has to be. That has to be a given. So I'll tell you what. This has been a fast hour tonight. It really has. Let's go another. I want to go more with you. I was going to close it off at an hour, but I want to go more, or at least another 15 minutes. Tell people, first of all, where they can join, where and how can they join the International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame? How can they become a booster and supporter? Let's get all that stuff out there.
Great. Go to prowrestlinghall.org. Or just, do a Google search for the International Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. Start to search it however you want. But again, that's prowrestlinghall.org. We are on Facebook. I understand, although I'm not on it, we're on Twitter. And I understand recently TikTok. And I guess TikTok is the largest numbers of people, which I don't even know.
It's bizarre, brother.
So, one of our clips just happened to get 20,000 views in no time at all.
It's remarkable. Scary.
But check out the website. But if you really want to support us, honestly, go buy one of these sweatshirts or T-shirts or the coffee mugs. First of all, they're great quality. They're comfortable. Everybody loves them. Yeah. But that way, you're not just making a donation. You're getting something for that donation.
I'll vouch for that. I actually own the shirt, the hoodie that Seth is sporting tonight. I own that. Have one hanging in my closet as we speak. It is a great investment at only, I think, $34 maybe. Yeah. It was $35, something like that. You'll pay more than that in the store for a hoodie.
And so they're really good quality.
It's really heavy quality. Yeah, and it's warm too. It's really warm. Coffee mugs. What else we got? We have keychains available yet? Anything like that?
No, not yet. We will be expanding, and we'll be rolling out some other options now, because what we've really gone. We took a step back and reestablished our backbone. Let me share with you, by the way, who some of the people are that work on this. So, like when we talk about the sales, that's Anthony Rotolo, who's out at Syracuse University, who is a professor and working on his dissertation. And he's the brains behind the website and the sales for the T-shirts and sweatshirts. And we owe a ton of credit to Anthony, who is a brilliant man, but he happens to get distracted, because he's writing his dissertation and teaching his courses at college. You had talked about Tony Villano earlier. Tony certainly is the godfather. He's sort of taken a step back, which is good and healthy, and I think for him, but I think it's also his way of challenging and saying, guys, take the ball and run with it. And and God bless him, because he did start everything off.
He's a remarkable guy. He really is. He has been. And I want to put a shout. And then we're talking about Tony now. Yeah. I want to put a shout out to Tony, because I'll tell you what, he has been invaluable in supplying me from time to time guests for this show. Upon just asking for their phone number, I got it. And so shout out to Uncle Tony Villano. You've always got a home here. If you got something to promote or plug, Um, one of the things I want to, your inaugural dinner was supposed to be Lanny Poffo. Is Lanny still going to be your inaugural MC?
I can't speak to that because I've not had that conversation with Lanny. I do understand.
And how do I audition for that position?
I understand Lanny did move to Ecuador, so I'm not.
He sure did.
But so I don't want to speak for someone else. I will tell you we do have an NWA champion who will be there. How's that? I'll let your
there you go.
That.
Well, I'm auditioning for the MC position, so let me know if I need to put a headshot in.
Angela, let me tell you who you need to have on your show, and he's the motor that's driving us a lot now, and that is Scott Wilder. And if you haven't had Scott on with Scott Wilder Promotions, this is a guy who I didn't know until we kicked off last year, but man, I turn around, he is setting up things at the Desmond for us. He's setting
Scott
up
is an amazing guy.
This guy goes and goes and goes.
Oh, God. He is the Energizer Bunny. He really is.
Yeah. So he has been so valuable to what we're doing. And then he, of course, has the connections with all of the other vendors who bring in people for autograph sessions.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's why when, at our event next year, that Saturday is going to be a convention during the day with from 35 to 50 different talent available. So that's sort of what will go on Saturday.
Excellent.
And how about we've got Bill Apter, who is
love Uncle Bill.
Contributor. And
Uncle Bill.
So
he's the best. He really is. Let's just stop here and pay homage to the great Bill Apter. It's funny because before you came on the air with me tonight, Seth, I was watching my interview with Bill Apter, and it still cracks me up. He just makes me laugh. But he's an amazingly insightful guy, and knows he knows wrestling. He knows the business. He knows this business inside and out. He's been around since day one. I think, back in probably back at least to the 60s, late 60s, early 70s anyway. I know Bill was around with camera in hand, taking somebody's picture. But, he's an amazing guy. We love Bill Apter, and he's an invaluable addition to your board, I'm sure.
Oh, my God. And we were going to be having an after hours party at the event with karaoke. But a week and a half ago on AEW, Chris Jericho talked about playing Go Fish with Bill Apter in Las Vegas. And now that's taken on a life of its own. We're looking at a Go Fish tournament with Bill Apter,
Oh, that's funny.
Right, the Cauliflower Alley Club has their cribbage. Well, we can't play the cribbage, so let's take on
exactly
Go Fish with Bill Apter. So who knows what that'll turn into. I want to throw out a few names, people you don't know. There's a guy, Greg Wachtel, who is on our board. Greg had worked, he was head of retail sales, with Time Inc., so with Playboy and Sports Illustrated and some other big organizations. He's behind us working on marketing and strategy with that, and he works with some guys, Dave Kahn, and someone you would know, Mike Falvo. And Mike has taken over our social media. And so if you've noticed, we're getting really good stuff on a daily basis. And that's
the key right now, Seth. Social media is the linchpin to everything. It used to be back in the day, people strove for popularity. Now they strive for views.
Yeah.
And that's the key. Eyeballs. Yeah, and he's doing an amazing job. I will tell you that. Absolutely.
And whether it's the social media or we talked about some of these autograph sessions and things, the business, as I'll call it, really is shifting from what it had been, even maybe when Tony was running it in Amsterdam, where now we've got social media. Now we've got these large events where businesses are bringing in talent all of the time.
Oh, sure.
That's sort of a different world because 10 years ago that wasn't around to as popular as it is now. So we're trying to find our way through this, and that's why the main goal being we need a facility. That's the goal.
Yeah.
That is the key to success. All the rest of it is window dressing. If we don't accomplish that goal, then we haven't done what we set out to do.
So right now, in lieu of of course, the COVID thing is still ramping up now. Unfortunately, starting to ramp up again. So you're probably not looking for a building till things start to at least creep open a bit up in the new, especially New York, where you guys are, has been brutal.
If an opportunity presented itself or were available, and then we came across it,
Yeah.
we're in a position we would take advantage of it.
Good.
But I'm not interested though in taking on a facility and paying for heat and plumbing and electricity for 6 months or a year with no opportunity to do anything with
Oh
it.
no, the last thing you want to do is sit on an empty building and have to pay for it.
Yes.
Yeah, and have to heat it. Yeah, I understand.
But it would be ideal if we could kind of at about the same time we were holding an event have a place to go to. But but what we're going to do is again around March start to look at what facilities are out there.
Yeah.
We pay attention in the meantime. Mike Lanuto, who's one of our vice presidents, his sister's a real estate agent as well, so she pays attention. And if we could get something that ties into pro wrestling, it would be great.
Sure, absolutely.
Poughkeepsie was certainly a hotbed of pro wrestling history. There's a number of other locations.
Yeah.
We've got some other, key people that are on our board as well. Mike Lombardi, who runs Northeast Wrestling, serves on our board. That's very helpful with lots of things. But Davey O'Hannon and JJ Dillon, those guys.
Those are my boys. Those are my boys.
And when we had started, Rocky Johnson had come on the board right away. That was our first big announcement. He was my personal friend. I also knew he was in the business too. So
sure,
lips
absolutely.
Moving, but Rocky was a good man, and of course he passed away tragically. January 15th.
We broke that story, Seth, when it happened. We were on the air when Rocky passed, and we broke that story live. That came as a shock to everybody. In fact, we stopped the regularly scheduled show we were doing, and we spent the rest of the show as a tribute to Rocky. What an amazing performer, and what a hell of a nice guy. Really nice guy.
Well, I'll show you something. You people, I actually wrote a book about Rocky that won't see the light of day too much. And it preceded, here's Scott Teal's book, which you also can't get now. I think.
Scott is actually a good friend of mine, and we actually talked about Rocky's book on the show. So in the interest of full disclosure, I do know Scott. He's a very dear friend of mine.
Yep.
In fact, he's coming on December the 8th. He'll be back here December the 8th.
Yeah, and one thing, Greg Oliver had been working on some sort of a book too earlier. So Greg, I think when they had told the story last time, Greg, when I was at Rocky's house, I saw the contracts that were being looked at with Greg. I was there. I didn't intend to write that book. In fact, we were going to be writing a different book. But what was going on is I was doing my research along the way, and I was putting together old programs and photos and this timeline because, man, you're trying to trace back, to the 1960s and, and the stories were so outlandish. I didn't believe they were true. And I'm going to tell you, they were.
Absolutely.
So as
we talked about that before.
As I put those things together, I said, this is a book, and so, but this was more the timeline that we were using to tell the story. But by the way, that's a great shot of Rocky.
I've actually seen that photo before too. And few people have.
We got one that no one's seen. But there's myself and Rocky and Tony and our other buddy, Joe DeFino. But you know, God rest his soul. Rocky's a good man, but
Yeah, absolutely. Good guy.
opened a
Well,
lot of
speaking
doors
of
for
good
me.
guys, you are an amazing guy. Where can people reach you? Put your personal social media out there. Any
Don't leave
plugs?
me alone. Leave me
Right.
alone. I don't need anything.
I hear you. You heard it.
Yeah, I'm out there. I'm looking to try to run a museum. I'm, looking to
There
run
you
the
go.
International Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. You can, certainly you can find me. I'm on Facebook, and
Sure.
you can send me an
Absolutely.
email because some people might want to follow up. It's Seth Turner 1 at MSN.com. That's Seth Turner and the number 1 at MSN.com.
Terrific.
I'm pretty good at getting back to people, but
Absolutely.
it's not
Well,
Angelo.
exactly. But
But
it's
then
all
he called
good.
me out.
It's all good, brother. I'm going to tell you what. Well, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. Stay with me. I'm going to make a couple of announcements and say goodnight to everybody. On December 1st, the return of Nick Christophers for part 2 of Mob Talk. Going to talk more about the Greek, Irish, and Italian mob. Getting into more about John A. Light. There may be a surprise on that end. Maybe, maybe not. We'll find out on December the 1st. December the 8th, the return of Scott Teal. If you have a wrestling book in your house, it probably has Scott Teal's name on it somewhere. It's a pretty good chance his name's either in it or on it. Yeah. We're going to start the new year off fresh. We've got, oh, God, it's a who's who of wrestling. We've got the return of Jimmy's Valiant, Butch Reed, Eddie Mansfield. God help us all. Davey O'Hannon will be joining us again. Oh Lord have mercy. We got I'm having a brain fart. Holy shit! I had all of this stuff to memory. I'm just like it's gone now. But anyway, we check our website, check our Facebook. I've got the schedule there. Everybody that's coming on. Lanny Paffo's coming back. There you go. I remember Lanny.
Excellent.
But they're all coming back. We got some newcomers coming on. Mike McGurk, the first female referee in wrestling, she'll be with us. And Scott Casey made sure that.
Hold on. First female announcer, first female referee. I'm glad you said is Rita Chatterton, Rita Marie, my friend from my hometown. Rita.
Yes,
Rita
and a lot of people make that distinction, but again, WWE writes their own history. So they're saying that she's the first female referee. So maybe we won't have her. Maybe I'll just get Rita instead.
Well, we could make that happen.
We might be able to do that. So, on behalf of Seth Turner, I'm Angelo DeCipio for Wrestling with the Future. Happy wrestling, everybody. Take care and enjoy your Thanksgiving. We'll see you on December 1st. Take care. Bye-bye.